coming through looking for bookkeepers and accountants. Many of those well, certainly a lot of them in North America, but many of those in Canada. So much so that in some cases people are asking us to turn it off, toggle it off, which we've done now, so that if you're getting too much demand, that you're able to do that, because obviously we don't want to create that onboarding experience. So that's a good problem to have, so we're really happy with that. So not only do we want to add more clients then, we want to make sure that we're helping you be efficient and manage your practice. And that's why we got into practice management, is that we believe there's a role for us to play there, helping to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks. And so we launched this back in May, and we've been listening to you, we've been revving on that. So as you heard this morning, we launched grouping by client, we launched recurring tasks, and we launched integration with things like Slack that could tie into the tools you want to use with your teams. So still a lot more work to go here. I'm not sure we'll ever perfect practice management. I'm not sure you really can do that. But at least we're providing more choices to help small businesses, or small firms and large firms, find the right solution for managing their practice. Also, helping you find customers, helping you manage your practice efficiently, and then lastly, core areas where we're trying to help save you time. Now, one of the big things we hear from desktop is bank rules, right? Is that a big time saver for you?
Yeah.
And then we hear, yeah, it's great as long as the bank feed doesn't break, right? And then we see Facebook lights up and everybody's frustrated. What's wrong with RBC? And so this has been like a personal passion of mine, getting the banks to think differently about how they open data. And it's gone from being a, why would we give you our data, to a, we are stewards of data, and how do we open it up in the right way to do right by client, while also not getting them into problems around things like the Bank Act. And so what we announced at QuickBooks Connect Toronto was the first bank made it over the line. And so I'd like to give a big round of applause for CIBC. Yeah. It literally was 3 years of conversation and last like a year and a half of just working collectively together to figure out how we make this possible. And as you might imagine, once we announced that CIBC was the first out, lots of banks now want to talk to us. So I had hoped we would have one other bank by the time we had this event. We're not quite there, but by the time we do Montreal, I hope we'll have one more. And I'm hoping by the end of the calendar year, we'll have 2 on, if not 3. So this is really, really great because this is really going to help provide clean data in, which is going to greatly help you. So much of our energy over the last, I'd say, kind of 4 years has really been on that kind of left-hand side, right? Clean data in. There's now 270 apps on apps.com helping you solve lots of problems. Of course, many of the key apps that are being used are things like receipt capture or document management, like HubDocs, LedgerDocs, that are really helping that data insight, right? And much of our energy has been books. How do we automate as much as possible? And then what we announced at San Jose is some things like being able to start giving you benchmarking data, so you can have conversations with your clients of like other businesses like you look like this. And we announced opening up conversational UI with QB Assistant. And what's unique about QB Assistant is more now you can just ask the questions. You don't have to worry as much about all the work to get there, which we're really in our early days, but there's so much more we can do there just to simplify processes and really just have it be more around what are the questions and dialogues you want to have, and worry less about data entry and how it's entered. So as we're continuing to build out those, we're now putting more energy on the right-hand side, that work papers and tax. And Canada is uniquely playing this role. It's wonderful seeing Australia and the UK all now on board now too, saying, hey, this is actually the long game. The long game is clean data in, clean books, through work papers, and then through tax, because we can do wonderful things, enable you to have much better conversations, service your clients much better if we're thinking this way. So we launched work papers over a year ago as our V1, saving bookkeepers time, not saving accountants enough time right now. But we know what we need to do. You probably, if you saw the rapid prototyping sessions, you'll see some of the early work we're doing, both us and Australia. And what that will allow us to do is lead sheets into the financial statements and Giphy mapping right within the application, saving a lot of time. From there, we launched QB Tax. So we announced it at Toronto. We launched it in beta. just over a week ago. We're starting with T2 because that's where we can have the biggest impact. But know that T1 will come. The reason why I'm so passionate about this, this is another passion, is if we can automate the work papers as much as possible based on great bookkeeping with clean books in, then we can enable a two-way tax app to feed information back. And so, sure, that's going to allow you to be able to adjust your books for all the tax work, so you're not going to have to do that. It should just do that for you. It's also going to be, how many people went to the CRA session today? Yeah, quite a few. It's going to be Heather's dream, because you'll be able to be like 5 clicks away from a cell in a tax app all the way back to the source docs, right? So it's going to be an auditor's dream. But the real part that's so exciting is now we'll be able to not only automate and save you time, but will enable you to have planning discussions, proactive discussions that would be really hard to do for a small business, working from books to caseware or to a tax app. If we can automate that, now you can say, hey, let's just sit down and talk through your business. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Let me run some scenarios for you. And the more we do that, and the more people that are using that, just like we're starting to do with books, we'll be able to push insights to you. Like other businesses like your mechanic are doing the following things to help them save money and prompt those conversations. We'll never be able to do that with a small business. That's too much of a science. But we can arm that information to you so that you can have that conversation. Only you know if they're going to sell the business, or they want to pass it on to their son, or they want to expand, or they're going through a merger. Right? Only you know that. But if we can give you ideas that kind of help spark those conversations and give you benchmarking data, then we think that that's us playing at our highest power. Or really, that's us helping you with technology, help you play to your highest power. So if you put it all together, it starts with that clean data in, all the way through the application and kind of back again, giving you practice management, that ability to kind of manage that across the work stream, and then helping you add more clients in while you're creating that that bigger impact. And if we do that all together, then for us, this is really realizing what our vision is of powering prosperity around the world. We view our role as just an enabler. You're the heroes, you're the ones that are actually out guiding. Our role is to help give you the technology to make the biggest impact that you can make. Sound good? Woo! So I consider this year is like the building blocks of where we'll be. We have probably another 18 months to 2 years of just like perfecting work papers, perfecting tax all the way through, and then we can get to the fun stuff. But it starts here and it starts now, and it's just so great to see the Canadian employees in particular building out these applications, much of it being done from our Edmonton site. I'm just super, super proud of what we do and the role we can have. I want to take a minute to thank you all for coming out, because you're taking time away from your clients, you're taking away from your employees, you're taking away from your families. But this really is where the learning happens, when we're connecting you together. And so for our next session, I'm going to invite some of our early cloud adopters up to share some of their early insights, so get ready. Secondly, I want to thank all the developers. We have, again, over 200 apps, 250 apps now on apps.com. We have 20 that have taken the time to help build apps specifically for Canada. So can we just do it, give them a big round of applause. And then lastly, I want to thank the Intuit employees. This wouldn't happen without a lot of people and the support staff around us helping put on the conference. So last round of applause for them. All right, so Michelle is running a little late, not too late, but we thought we would take some of the time by bringing up a few of the early adopters to cloud, just to talk about what they're seeing as trends in the industry and where some of the technology is going and how it's impacting the business. That sound interesting?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Come on up.
Without further ado.
I think you're gonna. Nice. All right. I'm going to ask some questions, but if you have any questions, in particular hard ones from Andrew, you're welcome to do so. So to start off, tell us your name, tell us where your practice is, and a little bit about yourself.
My name's Melanie Schroeder. My practice is in Burnaby at Kemp Harvey Group. We have offices throughout BC. And what was the last thing you said?
That was good. That was great.
Hi everyone, Brad Salmadas. Brad Salmadas Accounting Solutions. That's a pretty unique
Very
name.
original, yeah.
And Calgary. And my preference is to deal with small business owners, more from the, I call it the part-time CFO, but it's that advisory side where I spend a lot of time showing my clients how to use the accounting. I don't really do taxes. I don't really do the year-end stuff, but I totally relate to the people that do that, and I have referral partners, so my focus is really on helping out. Your turn?
And that's going to be me, the referral.
There you go, collaboration.
That's what it's about. My name is Tamitha Denies. I'm the owner of TD Accounting Services in beautiful downtown Sterling, where we are famous for having orange buggies drive past our office. We focus on providing cloud-based accounting technology to small businesses in our community, in our province, and in our country.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Wall. I'm the owner of WallCPA out of Toronto, and also taking over my father's practice, CA4IT, and bringing them along this journey like many of you are going through right now. And I guess my big claim to fame is, as I said earlier, I'm the world's tallest dwarf.
Okay. All right, let's start with, think back, I guess, to when the light bulb went off in terms of how you saw your practice changing and kind of the role cloud would play. When was that, and what was that like?
That would be about a year and a half ago when I came back to public practice, and I wanted to be able to have the flexibility to do my work from wherever I was, from home or the office, or the beach.
Nice.
So that was really it. I needed to be mobile, and the cloud was the only way that I could do that.
I've always enjoyed technology. I've liked the geek side of things, and let's face it, the accounting industry was never very exciting. I did get started on QuickBooks Desktop. I used it for a little bit and loved it, and then I found out about QBO through an online session in Calgary. I spent the day, I got certified the first day, and it was from that point on, I started seeing accounting in a whole new light. It really was, everyone used to say, it doesn't look the same, it doesn't feel the same. It's like, who cares? It's not supposed to feel the same. It's a whole different mindset. And now that I finally see that, it really took Connect back in 2015 in San Jose to really make me realize, wow, I want to be a part of this, because if I don't get on board with this, I'm going to be left behind. So, fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. FOMO. Mobile FOMO. Got it.
We started using cloud-based technology in 2014, and it was the latter part of the year. And what started it was a lawyer who wanted me to leave. I didn't want to have to go to her office. And surprisingly enough, it grew from there. And now there's nothing more exhilarating than watching a customer see the value of what cloud-based accounting can do for them and with them to grow their business. That's passion in itself.
I guess I've always loved technology, and in fact came from a technology background. Yes, I might was too. I came from a technology background. I was actually in IT before I was in accounting, and worked on a cloud-based accounting application back when it wasn't called the cloud back in 1999. But my company came connecting with people like yourselves up on the stage and people like you guys out in the audience, and finding my tribe and finding the place where I belong, where people had creative ideas, where they were supportive of each other, where we were embracing technology and leveraging both technology and the relationships that we build in life to further ourselves and our friends and our network. And that was the big change for me.
Well, maybe we'll go back far left there. When you look at what trends are coming down the pipe, what are the things that you think will impact the accounting industry most?
Okay, without a doubt, AI, artificial intelligence, is the biggest game changer to our industry. Obviously, we're seeing it in QuickBooks and we're seeing it in the bookkeeping. I think that more artificial intelligence is going to be coming further down through tax, and like you talked about with benchmarking, and the insights that we're going to be able to generate out of the data is going to be a game changer. It's going to really revolutionize what we do. But I also think there's some big game changers for our clients, and I think the biggest game changer I see for our clients is, what we saw in San Jose with QuickBooks Capital, and what we're seeing with CIBC here is that greater integration with the banks, being able to give our clients access to loans and financing. Which I was literally talking with a woman who is my daughter's piano teacher, small business owner, and was struggling to get a loan to purchase a car because her whole strategy, like all of the small business owners, is to maximize their expenses and minimize their personal salary. Well, the bank just looked at it and said, give me 2 years NOA, I don't see anything else, I don't care that your business is growing and you've doubled revenue year over year. And they just didn't look at that. And by being able to use that insight in what we already have in QBO is going to be a real game changer for so many of these small business owners. And as the industry is shifting, more people wanting to work in freelance and more Uber drivers and more people moving to independent contracting and being a small business, it's going to become even more important that we have banks who are in touch with these small business owners and can be able to lend them the money when it's prudent to do so, but also in times where we know as accountants that these people should be eligible for loans and they're just not getting them now. So I think that's something I'm really excited about.
That's great. Just on that, we announced that QuickBooks San Jose, QuickBooks Capital, that's the new branding, which essentially is lending to small businesses. So we stood a bank up in the US, really with the goal of just being able to learn faster. And we're building algorithms that enable us to be able to provide lending, again, to early stage, low amounts with low risk. It's been incredibly successful. Our goal is not to be a bank. That's not who we are. But to at least be able to learn quick. And now we're going out to banks saying, hey, we're building out the algorithms. If we gave this to you, would this enable you to be able to provide lending to earlier stage businesses? I think that's probably the answer for Canada, quite frankly, versus us necessarily completely replicating what the US is doing. But I have a ton of passion for solving that problem of how do we help these people that right now they're just looking at their personal lines of credit or their history. There's got to be a better way, and we can use the data to do that.
Who here has used QuickBooks Desktop? Okay, yeah, I know, right? Who out there has tried to teach their clients to understand what QuickBooks Desktop can get to them? And how many, keep those hands up, how many people actually succeeded with their clients? And the hands start to drop. Okay, we now with this technology that we have, and I can't see this getting anything but better, the technology that we have today is allowing us to make our clients understand what they actually have at their fingertips now. And we could not do that before. With technology and the way it's growing, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen in 9 months, I have no idea. But I do know that if we keep going on this path, our customers become even more informed and they become better business owners because of that. That technology is paramount to growth.
Absolutely paramount.
I couldn't agree more with what Andrew was saying about the bank feeds. We heard that this morning and Jeff just reiterated it. I've always taught my clients about cash management and how cash is king. And it's just so important with the tools we have to keep them up to date. And with the online, you have the ability with the bank feeds. Obviously tools like Receipt Bank and HubDoc and other tools like that allow you to stay organized. There's no better way to manage your cash than having these tools at your disposal. Now, what if the bank feed isn't working? You're at the mercy of a lot of things, and when a feed goes down for a few weeks, it can be critical to running a business in a cash tight environment. So that is fantastic news, and it's great to hear the other banks are going to be on board. And I hope the credit unions and the smaller savings and loans say, hey, we have to make this investment as well. What I see in the industry, and we kind of saw it a little bit with Intuit purchasing T-Sheets. It's kind of a little bit of a consolidation where a lot of these complementary apps and app partners get together and say, let's work together to solve, a common action. So with T-Sheet and WagePoint a little while ago, WagePoint into it now, I'm finding in my business being consulting, because I spend a lot of time looking for that perfect solution for the business. I like the fact that a lot of these apps are working together as well. So it's like a 1-2 punch. It almost becomes exponential. And you take these two killer apps and you add a new ROI to your client's way of life. I'm hoping it keeps going that way, and we find more and more innovative partners come on board and bring on more solutions that we can bring to our clients.
Me too. Yeah, I think what's interesting is many of the other countries, Australia, Europe, even the US now, have all forced the banks to open their data. Canada hasn't done that. And so that's why it's been a little bit of a different starting point with the banks of like, hey, this is why you should put energy towards this. But the good news out of that is that has forced the banks to do it because there is a win-win-win and not because they're being forced to. And so they are looking at it saying, how can I pull information back out of the accounting software to solve problems like lending? And so I think Canada will actually leapfrog the other the other country bank relationships because of that starting point. So a little bit slower, but I think we'll actually start to drive more innovation, or at least that's my hope. And to your point around the apps, our first years was largely about how do we get as many apps on the ecosystem to solve as many problems as possible. And now we're trying to balance that with just the ones that you choose. It's largely the bookkeepers and accountants that are really the heavy adopters of apps. The ones that you're choosing, how do we integrate them even more and save you more time? So a balance between getting more on with more time going in to just make them save you even more time.
It's interesting, when we talked about this question, I know what often what I want out of it, the mobility is what my clients want, and I think we see that a lot, that what we're liking is what we attract in our clients. But so to me, that's a big change that technology is going to bring to even the accounting industry, that it's just the ability to be flexible. But I went and looked, I Googled it, I'm like, so what are the top trends going to be with technology in the accounting industry in 2018? Because I was like, well, somebody's got to have written an article about this, right? And WallCPA.ca actually did. And they actually created a comparison of the technology revolution to the industrial revolution, and they said, everybody's worried about losing their jobs, like that AI is going to replace jobs, but they said the same thing happened. They said that in the industrial revolution people were going to lose jobs, but they didn't. Everybody just adapted. So I think we're just going to become more consulting like we've talked about, and we're all going to adapt in some way, and I think we're all doing that. We're shifting to more consulting based role because the nuts and bolts of it, all of the compliance is being taken care of. So what else is there to do but become more technical and sophisticated with how we're working with the data? And how that looks like for everyone is going to be a little bit different. We're all going to sit down and think about, how do I want to work with this? We're all going to evolve upwards towards that. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We're all taking care of our basic needs, and we're going to evolve towards that self-actualization.
Lots of good reading. I'll open it up to questions from the audience. There's mics running around if you're interested in that. While you ponder, as you think about the change that your organizations are going through, if there's like kind of one big thing you're struggling with right now, what does that look like? What's the change you're going through and how you handle it?
I'll start, I guess. So for me, the change that I'm struggling with is transitioning from a doer to a manager and to someone who is looking further down the road and building a culture within my own organization. And like the number one thing that I got out of QB Connect, both San Jose and Toronto, was I really need to fire myself. And then they think I really do. It's and it's so hard sometimes when you get stuck in that, you want to help the clients and you feel like your time is best spent doing the work and getting it out the door. And you're the best person capable of doing it, blah, 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 blah. If you're not looking down the road and you're not managing your team and putting the time and effort into growing your business rather than doing the work, it's hard for you to get up to that next level. And that's the thing that I'm struggling with right now. And so technology is playing such an important part of helping me to see the whole picture, to be able to have my workflow and my management and my practice management, be able to take a holistic approach to my business and be able to bubble things up so I'm not dealing with the minute details. I'm dealing with a big picture and being able to plan and look down the road and be able to build stronger relationships with my clients, with my staff, with my vendors, with everybody. So that's my goal right now.
It's like the old adage of less time in the business and more time on the business.
It's a cliche for a reason, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Others?
Interestingly enough, mine is my succession plan. Sorry, I can't speak. It's too late now. I'm still in Ontario time. I have 5 children, none of which have decided to enjoy this industry. Not one. So here I have this wonderful business that I've been creating and I've been building and has now become my baby, and I have nobody to give it to.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Okay. You need to cover. So now it's me trying to create this plan that was never something I had to think of in the past, and it's a challenge. I'm very challenged by it right now. It's finding what is the right person, what is the right mentality. Am I reaching outside of my personal realm that I have right now? Do I need to stretch and find someone that's in my community? It's a challenge, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out. But at the end of the day, this will still be a growing company, and somebody's going to take it over. So I just want to make sure it's the right person. You and I will talk.
Maybe you'll get the Andrew scenario where somewhere in life there's a switch.
Got a question over here.
We'll let Brad go first.
My biggest challenge lately, and it's going to sound like bragging a bit, is just being a victim of the success of the efforts that I made in the past. I looked at last year. It was actually my worst year in existence, and I've been in business for 5 years now. It was a tough year. I used to chase after the bigger projects, QuickBooks desktop related, big, ERP type projects, and those are great, but they're few and far between. And while you're working away on those, they're like a full-time job. You don't get the opportunity to do any networking, or you don't get the opportunity to do any marketing, anything like that. And all of a sudden your funnel dries up. So it really was after that Connect in 2015, and I started looking around the room, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of cool bookkeepers in this space, and this is awesome. So of course, a lot of people know that I partnered with a bookkeeper in the Calgary area, and she's awesome. I mean, she's teaching here. Everyone knows Tana's Young. I don't know if she's here, but shout out. There you go. Hi, Tanis. I can't see out there, but it was a smart move for me because I offered a different service to a different demographic, maybe a slightly smaller demographic. But now I find myself planting all these seeds, and they're starting to pop up. And now it's just a matter of managing them. The last couple of weeks has been especially interesting because there's just so many leads. It's like the first of the year, now how to manage them. So I've got a little bit more into the CRM. I use Method, and I'm starting to use it again, and holy crap, what a great tool. And anyone from Practice Ignition here knows how much I seem to be resisting it for no reason other than just making excuses. So now is time to start getting organized and using these tools that we're preaching that other people use.
So hi, my question is for the panel members that have employees. 5 or 6 years ago, when you hired a bookkeeper to work in your practice, you were hiring a data entry clerk. You're not hiring that person anymore. That job doesn't exist. So how do you define who and what that role is, and how do you train and coach that new group of bookkeepers into your practice?
I'll start with that. It is something that has changed from someone who could be in a back room who was crunching numbers to someone who's very client-facing. And I'm a believer that you can't actually train the ability to communicate. People have to have that. So you have to hire for communication, and you can train the skills. You can teach them how to use the product. You can teach them how to use any piece of technology. But if they're not a natural communicator, it's a non-starter. So that's the big thing that I focus more on. Is it's now about everyone's job is frontline, client-facing, and it's all about relationships.
You have a cool team.
Thank you.
I have a slightly different approach to hiring, I guess. I mean, we have a bookkeeping test to start with skills, and then I always look to whether someone is coachable, and I don't always even look to the industry, because I agree with Andrew, you can teach skills, but I think communicating with people is a coachable skill, and we learn how to teach that in counseling school. But somebody has to be coachable, right? They have to be willing to learn.
Yeah, we have a number of team members, and we hire more for your ability to connect with the customer, because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're connecting. And if you have an issue with your bookkeeping, with your plan, I need you as a team member not to come running and ask me how to fix it, but have the common ground to work from, to be able to communicate with them and walk through it. Like, skills you can be taught. I can't teach you to talk. I can't teach you to reason, and I can't teach you to be empathetic to that person that's sitting across from you, and that's desperate. I need you to be able to do that.
And I think, just to add on to this, the other thing that is so critical now is it's the ability to think. You know, we've seen at a number of these conferences that it's the non-routine, non-repetitive tasks that are going to stick around, which means the people we're hiring need to be able to think. So they're not just number crunchers anymore. They're not, rinse and repeat, do the same thing over and over again. We need to be able to think.
Empowering them to do that.
Oh, yes.
That's the other thing. They have to be able to be
Coach to be empowered, and that's a big thing that I'm finding difficult.
I agree with you completely. You've got to give your staff the freedom to make decisions.
and mistakes.
And most importantly, and teach them that there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. And this was a cultural issue that we had to face, where we came from a culture where we to improve, and that everybody knows that it's perfectly okay to make a mistake, and you're not standing up and you better tell us why you made that mistake and why you're never making that mistake again. You're telling us, what did we learn from this? How can we improve? What are we going to do differently so that we don't experience this thing again in the future?
Awesome. Well, speaking of empowerment and empathy, I know that Brian is flagging me that he's empowered to tell me to get on the stage. And I'm showing empathy by saying, okay, we'll do that. So can I get a round of applause for Cameron? All right, thank you very much. All right, so our next speaker, I'm sure you have heard her name, Michelle Ramada. You might know her from Dragon's Den. You might know her from Next Gen Den. What you may not know is that she started up 3 companies all before the age of 28. One of her most recent being Clearbank, which is phenomenal. It happened to be at FinTech Awards, where we won the most, or not at FinTech, they Startup Canada Awards, where they won Best FinTech Award. So without further ado, put your hands together to a truly remarkable leader, Michelle.
So I'm thrilled to be here to speak with you today. So sorry my flight was a little bit delayed coming in from San Francisco. And so, when I thought about what I was going to share with you, I can talk about commerce and fintech and how, even I've changed doing my books in the last 10 years. But the most important thing that I would share is my story. And my real story, not the story that a lot of people hear, which is, or a lot of people tell, which is, I had a goal and I went after it and something happened. The story of actually how messy, surprising, and difficult it was along my journey. And so I thought about starting with what I wish I would have known before I found myself on this crazy entrepreneurial path. And I wish I would have known 3 things. The first is that building a business would be messy, and I would have to roll up my sleeves and get real scrappy. As you guys have probably seen with your own businesses and many of your clients, this is a totally unstraight path to the top. The second thing I wish I would have known is that I need to stop planning and get going. And that all the planning in the world would not make me successful and certainly would not prevent me from failure. And then the third thing I wish I would have known is that all of my innovation would come through iteration. It would come from running tons of little experiments until finally I got something big. It wouldn't come through one eureka moment that I had one day. So let's start with the first one, getting scrappy. And what does that mean? Because I always knew it was something I had, but I didn't know until later it was what was making me successful. So, you know, being scrappy is turning no's into yeses, kind of building something from nothing, and really figuring it out when you don't have very many resources. And so I'll take you back all the way to Queen's University with me. I was an engineering student, had built a little coffee shop on campus, so I had my first little entrepreneurial activity, and then found two other colleagues in engineering with me, and we spent all of our time playing one game, and that was, what's the next $1 million? We brainstormed everything. I mean, we had built these PLA plastic water bottles in a lab where you could throw them to the side of the road and they would biodegrade in 30 days. I mean, it was a very good idea for the environment. It was not so good when our water bottles started leaking. It needed a little bit of work. PLA is actually now being used in many, many products today. We also looked at importing seeds from overseas and customizing them here over an online website, and we looked at tons of different ideas until we finally settled on caviar and fish production. You're supposed to laugh now. Because nobody at 21 years old in their right mind decides they want to go fishing for a living. But we had really good reasons. Worldwide supply of caviar was down by 95%. We had overfished the Caspian Sea. And I was like, oh, you know, this is one of the oldest luxury products. No, this is one of the oldest products in the world, period. You know, there's gotta be people that want it. And so I remember from the Queen's University Library, I cold called one of America's most famous chefs, Thomas Keller. And I called this place, called the French Laundry, picked up the phone and said something about caviar, and somehow the receptionist put me on the phone with him. And I said, Thomas, I'm wondering why you don't have caviar in your menu. And there was this long pause, and he goes, do you have any? and in my mind, I'm like, I'm a kid calling from Queen's University Library. Like, of course I don't have any. But I knew at that moment that if one of the most famous chefs in America could not find this product, that if I produced it, I would have a counterpart. And so off we went. We went to build a business plan. I remember researching absolutely everything about aquaculture, meeting all of the best professors, going to every fish farm around the US, writing an 80-page business plan, and building one of those like 10-tab Excel models where I predicted like everything for the next 20 years of this company. And incorrectly, but all of you that have seen projections are laughing. And so, you know, we figured we needed a little bit of capital, and we were in school, and so we figured the first thing to do is that we should go to some business plan competitions. And I remember we went to the first ones, and we pitched this crazy idea of building a caviar farm. And we didn't win the first one. And then we didn't win the second one, but we got a little bit better, and we won the third one, and the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one. $25,000. So I mean, this is great for a group of, you know, 3 21-year-olds to have 125K to start a business. The problem is it was pretty far away from the $6 million we needed to start this. So what was our solution? Our solution was to get real scrappy. We had to figure out how we could prove to investors that we could make this product and sell to the end market, because they were afraid we were going to have to use distributors and we'd never figure out how to build this. And so in our research, one of the things we had figured out is that there was a wild supply of sturgeon in New Brunswick that hadn't been caught for a number of years for a variety of different reasons. And so we figured we would just get in a car and move out to the east coast of Canada and build a fishery. So off we went. It actually went something like that. We hopped into Ryan's Toyota Camry and we drove on out. And when we got there, one of the first things we discovered was that there was only 5 people in the province of New Brunswick that had a fishing license to go catch a sturgeon. They'd all been grandfathered in, they weren't getting them. 5 people. And so I remember calling the lady at Fisheries and asking if I could have the names of these 5 people. And she politely said, I don't know who you are, but that would violate all the privacy rules, so I cannot give you those names. And so I called every single day, hoping to get a different person, until finally I got someone who said, oh, I know where those are. And so she gave me the 5 names, but she certainly didn't give me the 5 phone numbers. So I remember going through the phone book myself, calling every single Elmer Smith, which there's a surprising amount of, in the province of New Brunswick. And I mean, this is about the weirdest cold call you've ever got, right? Normally, like, you're calling to sell some insurance. This is like, hello, I'm looking for the man with the sturgeon fishing license. He was like, the what? And so finally, I remember getting Elmer's wife on the phone. And, she is just as confused as everyone else at that company at this point. She goes, no one's ever called asking for that. She goes, but Elmer's here, so I'll let you talk to him. And so these fish were exceptionally valuable. Every fish that we would pull out of the water was worth between $5,000 and $10,000 because of the amount of caviar you had in one of these fish. So I was prepared to pay up to $5,000 a day to rent one of these licenses. So again, I've never met Elmer. I'm gearing up for my big negotiation. I just met his wife 10 seconds ago. And I'm like, Elmer, how much do you want for me to rent your fishing license for the summer? And he pauses and he goes, well, for you, sweetheart, I hate being called sweetheart, as much people know from the show. I bit my tongue. He goes, how about $5,000 for the summer? And I was like, okay, you got a deal. So Elmer, then I figured, and then I said, Elmer, well, can you go fishing for us? And he goes, oh, I know we haven't met, but I'm 75. I don't go fishing anymore. So I have the license, but I have no fisherman. And so I'm like, well, it seems like the hard part is over. I can go find a fisherman. And so we get a woman at Fisheries to recommend, I'm like, do you know anyone who's looking for work? And she goes, yeah, you should go talk to this guy named Ted Finley. And I go, great, does Ted Finley have like an email or a phone number? And she goes, oh, that's not how we find Ted Finley. I was like, okay, East Coast is a little bit different. She goes, well, you go up the street and you go right at the greenhouse and you go left at the red house. And in that little house on the hill, that's Ted's. So I'm like, okay, here we go.
Road trip.
So we drive up. I mean, this whole thing has been quite a road trip. Yeah. So we drive up to Ted's house, and I have no idea if I have the right house, because it's not like I have an address or anything practical like that. And I knock on the door, and there's no one there. But I think I have the right house because there's fishing gear all over the lawn. So I'm like, okay, I gotta at least be in the right place. And I remember distinctly this moment in my life where we go back to this, it was a 20-year-old Toyota Corolla, and we sit down, and it's the July heat, and it's beating down, and I'm waiting for this fisherman to come home. Yeah.
Mike's gone.
Did we lose our mic?
Sort of bad.
Is that better? No. Is that better? Hello? It looks like it's on.
Yeah.
It is on. Okay, is that a bit better? Okay, let's try that. So I'm in this car, and all I can think to myself, there we go. I think it's just, and I'm in my car, and all I can think is, that not working?
No.
Just hold it. Just hold it. It's gonna be a long time of
Bruce
just
Cross is
waiting.
there.
That's okay. It's much better when you laugh. There we go. That's a lot better. Okay, so we're here. We're in front of Ted's house. Ted has not come home for about 10 hours now. I'm in this car. It has no air conditioning. The heat is coming in, like the July heat is coming in. And all that's going through my head is, I have an engineering degree, and I have an MBA, and I'm stuck with a fisherman. this is what my life has become. Like, if that's not true scrappy, I don't know what is. So finally, 10 hours later, I'm not even joking, Ted comes home and he's like sweaty and gross, and he's like, hey, who are you? I'm like, well, we're looking for you to go fishing. And he goes, great, I'm looking for work. I'd love to go fishing for you guys. He goes, just one problem. I don't have a boat.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what kind of fisherman doesn't have a boat? And so he goes, but I got an idea. He's like, my buddy has a boat, and you can buy it from him. I'm like, oh man, like I'm trying to be capital efficient here. Like I don't want to buy a boat at this point. And he goes, well, why don't you buy a boat? So I said, okay, Ted, I'm going to do my first true financing offer in my life. I buy the boat, and then we deduct whatever 5% of the boat every time you catch a fish, and at the end of it, you own the boat. He goes, okay, Michelle, we got to do it. So we got the boat. So now we have the license, the fishermen, we got the boat, and we managed to get processes. So off we go. Now we're off to like build a business. I mean, this is scrappy business. This is like we were waking up at 5 in the morning. We were meeting Ted on the bank of the river in Evandale, seeing which fish we wanted. We were taking those to the processing facility. We were actually processing the fish ourselves. Then we would have like time for a 10-minute lunch at Subway. I could never eat Subway after that summer. And then we would have to get on the phone and call restaurants who had never heard from us and say, hey, you've never heard of us. We're a brand new caviar company out of New Brunswick, and we caught a fish this morning. I'm wondering if you'd like it this evening. And believe it or not, it was such a cool product that people had access. People were like, great. So then we would have to close the sale by 5, because at 5 o'clock FedEx closed, and then these things had to go out, and then we would try and sleep again, and do this all over again. So by the end of the summer, we had actually built a little business doing it. What we didn't know is that fall, the giant recession of 2008 was coming. And so, in a tiny turn, you know, the whole business had been destroyed by one turn in the market. And I stood back and I had this great realization that all of that planning that I did, that giant 80-page business plan, and all of that stuff I had anticipated, none of it actually happened. And it was the 3 months of executing that business that I realized what I can do and what was possible. And it was probably still one of my greatest learning experiences, that I had to learn and I had to move myself as a natural planner, as a natural student, that I had to trade planning for execution, because that would help me build a better business. And so the recession got so bad, I ended up going to work as the director of strategy at one of the big retailers. And a year later, we had not gotten rid of this entrepreneurial bug. So I sat down in a coffee shop with Ryan and Anatoly once again after a completely failed caviar business. And we said, this time, what's the next $1 million idea? Except that we built Bytopia completely different. So when we started, this was our business plan. It had 3 pillars. Get ready for these. The first is that we had no money, so we would build our website overseas because we couldn't pay Canadian developers to do it. The second part of our business plan is that we would launch a trade show because we figured we could find lots of customers there and test our product live with people. And the third is that we would have one famous person tweet for us. That was our entire business plan. pretty plan. And so what happened? Well, we got to the day of the trade show, and I remember we had been on the phone with these overseas developers a bunch, and they kept saying, yeah, it's going to be ready. So we got to the day of the trade show, and I said, well, where's the website? And they go, well, ma'am, it's not ready. And I was like, oh, no. You know, it needs to be ready. And they said, no, we're not going to have it ready. So I remember the day we launched at the trade show, we had all these like computers out where you could see the website. But it wasn't really a website. It was a JPEG. It was a picture of a website that opened in a web browser, that we had just enough time to code one thing on this picture, and that was the buy button. And that took you to a PayPal page where you could process your credit card that way. And so we were totally unprepared. I mean, this is as scrappy as it gets. I mean, we literally had nothing. But what did happen is we did $10,000 of sales in that first trade show, off of literally a website that didn't even work. And then the famous person tweeted for us. And that did absolutely nothing. And I would have never guessed from that tiny little business plan and years of iteration that 5 years later, we became one of Canada's fastest growing companies. We bought over 15 different e-commerce websites, so now we have shop.ca, we have many deals in the UK, and the entire company should go public next year. You would have never guessed from that tiny little business plan that we would have ever made it there. And that we started from the last $15,000 that was left in our Evandale Caviar bank account. And so I think one of the things that entrepreneurs don't talk often enough about is how often you need to fail to be successful. And I think that it works the best to actually share all of those failures and what those look like. And we tried so many different businesses along the way, along my career. In fact, when I joined the cast of Dragon's Den, I remember I had to figure out a few things. So the first is that I hadn't had a boss in a lot of years. But when I was on a TV show, I definitely had a boss, and they're called producers. And they tell you everything that you have to do. And so I remember it's my third day of filming, and the way that the show is set up is we actually know nothing about the pitchers before they come down the stage. We don't know their names, we don't know their business, we don't get to Google the industry they're in or get any market stats. We actually know nothing about the businesses. That's how you get really raw reactions from Dragons. So I remember being pulled backstage, and it's me and it's 3 producers. And my grade 5 brain is going off being like, I could get in trouble. Because I'm like, this is really a 3-on-1. And I remember them looking at me and they said, well, Michelle, we think you're getting notes. Like, we think someone is telling you who the next pitcher is and who's coming on next, and you're doing a bunch of research on them. And I said, why? And they go, well, you seem to know about all these different businesses. I'm like, who their competitors are, what the big stumbling blocks are going to be, and it's like very specific knowledge. And I start laughing to myself. And I look at them and I go, it's because I tried to start half these businesses. And I failed at most of them. So I probably know the right questions to ask. And so when I take you through that, let me take you through the story of how we built SnapSaves. I mean, what we had at the time is a massive list of customers. We had 3 million customers at the time on a mailing list that were buying our e-commerce products. And we knew that CPG was a great source. All of these packaged goods companies, the Cokes and Pepsis and Procter & Gamble's of the world, are spending tons of money sending physical paper coupons to people's houses. And so we looked at that and we said, well, there's got to be a better solution. And so the first thing we tried to build a print-at-home website where you could go and you could print coupons and use them at retailers, and no one liked that. And then we tried to build something where we sent a box of samples to people's houses like these box companies did, and that didn't work. In fact, what I do remember, Julie, is that I got one of the companies that sponsored the box was Self-Tanner Company. And so at one point in my office, we had 10,000 units of Self-Tanner and no other products to put in the box. And this is before Donald Trump made orange really that cool. So that didn't work a lot. And so finally we figured out, well, we needed to put it on a mobile phone. And we needed to make it easy, and we needed to if you could just take a picture of your receipt after you bought something, wouldn't that be better? And that gave us the data, and the data allowed us to sell that to these packaged goods companies, and we were giving cash back to consumers for doing what they normally did. That just worked. It was magical how fast it started to work. We started getting millions of downloads every week. We started to grow really quickly. And then